Hi, this is John, your Rogue Mechanic. Welcome to another video.
Before I get started, let's quickly go over the features of the Mavic 4 design so that you have a better understanding of what you're dealing with when you tackle this job. You see how the spoke is threaded into the rim, and that the rim is a double wall design. But because both of the rim walls are not drilled all the way through, your only access to the nipple is from the top. Now that you have a better idea of what you're dealing with, let's get started. So these are the tools that I use for this job. I use several different sizes of drill bits. I also use 11/64ths, which I don't show here. I use extractors. Now these are straight fluted extractors. Spiral fluted extractors will not work because of the left-handed threads. And the two on the left are the styles that actually work best for me. They're actually the same ones. They're just number ones. Again, straight fluted. This next one, I don't really have a lot of luck with. I also use an M7 left-handed tap. Good luck finding one of those. So I also use cable cutters, drill, and a high-speed rotary tool. In this case, I use a Dremel. I also use a hammer, center punch, and a couple modified chisels that I sharpen in the grinder. And last but not least, safety glasses. This video is going to cover two different scenarios that I usually deal with. The first one is what I call the easy. That's when the spoke nipple comes out using the extractor. And the second one is the harder. That's when the extractor does not work and we have to do some other things to remove it. So I'm going to start with the easier scenario. Here I'm showing you a typical situation where the spoke nipple cracked. So the tool interface broke away from the threaded part of the nipple. So what you want to do here is first cut away the spoke or cut out the spoke. I just use some type of cable cutter, whatever. And then I use the grinding tool or cutoff tool to remove the remainder of the exposed spoke. I try to get it as close to flush as I can with the top of the nipple. Here I'm showing it at a different angle, and with the scenario that the spoke nipple did not break, here I'm going to use the cutoff wheel to cut the remainder of the nipple off as close as I can to the rim. Again, I use that tape just to protect the finish of the rim. Next, I'm going to use that punch, and I'm going to punch the remaining part of the spoke into the rim. Now usually it won't fall all the way through because it's still too long, and this is where I start drilling. Again, I strongly recommend to go slow. There's no prizes for screwing up the rim. Usually when you step up to the next size drill, the remainder of the spoke will fall into the rim, and we'll get that out later. So after that spoke is clear, this is when we start using the extractor. Again, I use that number 1 extractor, and I tap it in with the hammer just to make sure that it bites into the aluminum. And there's several different types of tools you can use. I just use a really small wrench because I like how I can control the tool, and it's best to go slow here. If you can get it to move just a little bit, you're golden. So I would tap the extractor in, try to turn it slowly. Again, you get it to move, you're good to go. If it slips, tap it in a little more. But again, just go slow. Again, here I'm just showing the small wrench that I have. This also allows you to get around the remaining spokes of the wheel. So again, just go slow, and if you can get that thing to move, you're good to go. If it slips a little bit, just tap it in a little more. Again, apply pressure while you're turning it. And again, left-handed threads, so reverse threaded. So lefty is tighty, righty is loosey. I think I got that right. You can see it's turning. So at this point, we are on our way to getting this wheel back on the road. So you can continue to use the easy out, or you can use pliers. But again, just go slow. You're almost done at this point. And you can see the corrosion that's on the threads of the remaining part of the nipple. So at this point, all you really have to do is clean the threads. I mean, again, I have that M7 left-handed tap, but you can also use another Mavic spoke nipple to kind of clean the spokes. I've done that before I got my hands on this tap, but you just want to clean it out as good as you can. And here's the end result. Now here's a second scenario that can be a bit more of a challenge, but everything's the same up until you get to using the extractor. And you do everything you can with the extractor, but it just won't budge. This is when you start increasing the size of the hole in the nipple by stepping up the sizes of the drill bits. And again, be careful, go slow, don't screw up the rim. And for me, I typically go up to 11/64. And at that point, I start using the Dremel. Keep in mind that these spoke holes are drilled at an angle. So when I start using the Dremel and a carbide burr or some type of bit, I I typically start working towards the 12 and the 6 o'clock position, so the point furthest away from me, the point closest to me, and try to thin those areas out. So here's a look from a different angle. Again, I'm working the part of the spoke nipple that is closest to me, and then I change it to the part of the spoke nipple that's furthest away from me. And my reasoning for doing that is if I thin out those two areas of the spoke nipple, if I'm lucky, I can get the two sides to collapse. And that's what I work on. So at this point, I break out a chisel that I actually sharpened on the grinder, and again, a small hammer. And what I'm working at is I'm trying to chip away at the remaining parts of the spoke nipple without damaging any of the threads in the rim. Now these spoke nipples are relatively brittle, so they will come out, but you just have to work at it. So I'm showing you that I have, like I said, a sharpened chisel, and you'll see in a minute or so another chisel that I made out of, actually I ground it to a point out of a small file. So again, I'm working with much harder materials than the aluminum, and so that's what has worked for me. So I keep on working at it, keeping an eye on the threads of the rim, and try to minimize the damage while doing this. So I'm just eating away at the remainder of the spoke nipple. Again, go slow. That's the key. So at this point, you're getting really close. And this one's being stubborn. Sometimes it comes out in two pieces, sometimes 3 or 4, or others it just takes longer. But I've been batting 1,000 so far, and I've done quite a few of these. Again, the key, I keep on repeating, is to go slow. So I repeat the process of the Dremel and using the hammer and chisels until I remove all of the remaining bits and pieces of the spoke nipple, or the vast majority of it. Again, just go slow. And you see here, I'm working the last bits of the spoke nipple out of the threads using that modified file that I made into a pick. At this point, I have the majority, if not all, of the remaining spoke nipple material out of the threads of the rim. So I'm just going to clean it up by running the tap through it using some lubricant. Again, you can use a spoke nipple, a Mavic spoke nipple, M7 spoke nipple, if need be. I also found that works too. So when you're at this point, you just have to remember while you're cleaning up that you still have to remove the part of the spoke that's in the rim and any of the fragments of the spoke nipple that was ground or chipped away. And you will have to retrieve that or remove it from the valve hole because, again, the rim isn't drilled all the way through. So just remember that, or you're going to have some rattling when you're riding. So I hope this video helps. This is about as clear as I can put it, explaining the technique that works for me.
Hey, thanks for watching the video. I'll catch you next time.